Hi again, everybody. This is Ron Evans with Ron Evans Realty, and today is February 9th, and I thought I would give you a little update on what's been going on the last few weeks here in the Orange County housing market. Now, I'm just going to cover the county in general. If you do have questions or comments related on a specific area of Orange County, please feel free to drop a comment below or message me direct, and I'll be happy to put something together just for you, for your neighborhood, your zip code, your city, whatever you'd like. In this video, we're going to cover things like buyer demand. We're going to talk about the available homes on the market, so the supply. We're going to talk about days on market at different price points. And then we're going to kind of put things together and kind of see where we're going right now, knowing that the spring selling season is just right around the corner. Now, if you've been paying attention at all recently, you know that interest rates, the second 2/3 of 2022, started to creep up. I think they maxed out at about 7% at one point as the way to try to curb inflation and get the housing market a little more under control with supply and demand. As a consequence, going into fourth quarter, we saw demand basically tank. Supply got a little bit better, but not a whole lot better because let's face it, if you're looking to sell a home, the main reason you're probably looking to sell a home is because you want to go buy a home. And so if the interest rates are going to go up for the buyers, most of the buyers out there have to be sellers as well. So it may or may not make sense for you to make a move at that time financially. So fourth quarter, we saw some significant drop off. We saw some, not historic lows, but some close to historic lows when it comes to supply and demand. Certainly nothing like we had seen the last 3 to 10 years with what had been going on even before the pandemic. Now let's go into how we're seeing things start out this year. Now, typically January is when we see maybe some glimmer of hope, some signs of life, but usually January is a little bit slow. But here we are on February 9th, and we are going to look at like the last 30 days. So basically the beginning of this year, 2023. Let's start with demand. Now, demand, as Stephen Thomas puts it, is a snapshot of the last 30 days of pending sales activity. So those are homes that have gone from being active status to pending, meaning they've got an accepted offer and they have opened escrow. Okay. In the last 30 days, pending activity and demand jumped 38%, adding 361 pending sales. So we now have 1,300 homes pending currently. That, he says, is the largest 2-week rise since February of 2021 and the strongest demand reading since October of 2022. See what I said? Everything kind of tanked in fourth quarter. We're on the rebound. Now, he says to keep in mind that demand is still at shallow levels for this time of year. We're still 23% off what we were a year ago, so February of 2022. And 38% below the 3-year average before the pandemic. So while we are rebounding, it's not crazy rebound like we saw a year ago, but still it's a sign of hope and a sign of life in the market. Demand is also muted because of the lack of available homes to purchase. So when you have interest rates that have gone up a little bit, and let's be honest, they've come back down recently, so they're no longer close to 7, they're in the low 6s, but because inventory hasn't gotten any better, that is also muting demand because people just are like, if there's nothing out there, there's no use of me being out trying to find a home that's just not available, regardless of the interest rate. So because, though, the demand has shot up so much, our expected market time has plunged from 81 days to just 56 days. That's our lowest level since June of 2022. And I would say that like May, June, July of 2022 is the last like 3-month period that we had a really good housing market kind of just wheeling and dealing along. It was shortly at that time that things started the brakes halted everything. So, but that's a really good indicator. So when you're at like 90 days plus, that's when you start shifting from a seller's market into a flat market or even like a slight buyer's market. When we are down below 90 days and now below 60 days, we are creeping back into a pretty solid and strong seller's market. However, he writes that there is a warning to sellers. Home values are not climbing right now. And that's mainly because the supply of homes because the interest rates are higher and the supply is low, buyers are still on the fence, right? It's got to be the right home at the right price, and they'll come out and pay for it with the higher interest rate, but they're not just going to buy something just to be buying something right now. So if you're overpricing a home, you're just going to sit on the market and you're going to waste the fact that market time is down to 56 days. You're going to be on that high end, skewing it back up. So until rates fall considerably to at least the mid fives, so another half to 3/4 of a point, home values will probably not rise. They're going to stay pretty flat. Now, when we say not rise, we mean we're not going to see incremental growth like we were seeing the last few years of 12%, 16%, 18% year over year growth. We're going to be back down into the 4 to 5% that we normally see in Orange County. Historically, that's about what we normally see. And that's where we're at, but we're not going to see like that. Put your home on the market today and 30 days from now, it's already worth 5% more than it was when you first listed it. That's gone. A warning to buyers though, lowball offers to purchase and looking for a deal will be an exercise in futility. Keep in mind the people that are selling right now are also most likely buying, so they are your competition. So trying to lowball the seller who is also needing to purchase is not going to work out. The sellers, if they're pricing it right, they're doing so because they need every penny out of their home, all of their equity, in order for them to move into a new home. So don't try to lowball anybody. It's just not going to work right now. So let's talk about some different price points of homes. Homes priced below $750,000, which right now we used to go down to homes priced below $500,000, but that's gone. $750,000 is like our entry-level price point that we report on, and that's considered like really like starter home price range, and it's becoming harder and harder to find. But the market time for homes priced below $750,000 decreased from 63 days to 43 days during this current time period. 24% of the homes that are active inventory right now fall into the below 750 price point. That's pretty significant. We'd gone quite a while with really having a lack of first-time homebuyer price points, things below $1 million, because it was just getting crushed in the market. So it's good to see that we are seeing an increase in inventory. However, it also accounts for 30% of the demand. So there's the negative. That's what's going to keep those prices from really dropping, is the fact that there is a slight higher demand than there is inventory in that price point. If you look at the next level of homes priced between $750,000 and $1 million, the market time for those decreased from 59 to 41 days, another significant decrease. Now, this range represents 20% of the active inventory and 27% of the demand. So if you have those two together, which is basically, like I said, your starter home or maybe your first buy-up level, right, going from a small condo to a larger condo or townhome, maybe a single family home, depending on the area, that's half of the inventory out there now is in those price points, but it's also almost 2/3 of the demand. So anything under $1 million right now is just a price point you don't want to mess around with when it comes to selling or buying. And it's a significant chunk of what we've got going on with buyers and sellers. Now, homes priced between $1 million and $1.25 million, that's our first like move up level price point. That's gone from 72 days to 47 days on the market. That tells me that people were probably approved at that level, but they were trying to shop below $1 million for a quite long time and have gotten to the point where, okay, we're going to go ahead and spend the extra money and go to that $1 million to 1.25 million. And those homes have gotten snatched up recently. They only represent 11% of the active inventory, however, but they do represent 13% of the demand. So it's kind of a flat area, but I have a feeling that people that were looking to buy either 1.25 million or under $1 million have settled in this zone, and that's why you saw such a decrease in the days on market. Our next level up is 1.25 million to 1.5 million. That expected market time decreased slightly from 77 to 62 days, but this range only represents 11% of the active inventory. But here's the kicker. It's also only 10% of the demand. So now this is the one that's really like the first pricing level that's kind of a flat market where the inventory and the demand are fairly equal. And that's why you didn't see a huge decrease in days on market. You saw a little decrease, but not a significant decrease like you did in the other three areas. Now we bump up one more. We're going to go from 1.5 to 2 million. This is our threshold now that used to be our first threshold of luxury, but is now our last threshold that we report on of non-luxury homes. The expected market time in this area actually increased from 117 to 127 days. Why? Well, it's 12% of the active inventory, but only 7% of the demand. Some of these price points are very, very, very tricky, and it's so important to get it right when you're pricing it and have the right agent that's helping you market it and get it sold. This is one of those price points that if you're shopping in 1.5 to 2 million, sometimes depending on the area, especially here in Orange County, there can be not a whole lot different in a $1.4 million home and like a $1.7 million home, depending on the area. Maybe it's got a few amenities different, a little bit closer to the coast or further from the coast, but it's all relative to lifestyle. But the type of home you're buying in that market may not be a whole lot different from area to area. It's just the area that might be a little bit different. So it's a price point that someone might look to purposely. If they're just looking for a specific type of home, they may have a much broader price range to shop in, and it may not fall in this 1.5 to 2 million. That's my opinion of what I see in that price point when I'm working with my buyers. Now let's just talk about true luxury. That's 2 million on up. So between 2 million and 4 million, the expected market time the past 2 weeks decreased from 116 to 98 days. That is because of what I talked about before, that 1.5 to 2 million. Well, the guy that's looking at 1.8 million, the type of home he can get at 2.2 million might not be a whole lot different, but it might be in a really different area, or it might be like really updated and not have to spend a lot of money to get in, but size wise and things like that, it might not be a whole lot different. So why not pay a little bit more and put yourself up in that next category? And that's why that price point dropped a little bit. Homes priced between 4 million and 6 million, that market time also slightly decreased from 245 to 225 days. And homes priced above 6 million, the expected market time decreased from 882 days. Yes, it had jumped up to 882, but it has gone way, way, way down to 523 days. I know that sounds like a lot, but there were years when I first got into this market that a $6 million home easily would be on the market for well over 523 days. In the luxury space, so all homes above that 2 million, they account for 25% of the inventory, but here's the kicker. Right now, they only account for 10% of the demand. When things were really, really hot in 2021 and early 2022, the demand in the space above 2 million was pretty crazy because the rates were so low. And I think people finally realized it might be the end of days with those really ultra low rates. And so people were really pushing themselves to get up into those price points while they could. Now let's talk a little bit about distressed homes, which is foreclosures, short sales, things of that nature. they've only comprised of 0.3%. So not 3%, but 0.3% of all listings and only 0.5% of the demand. Currently, at the time of this writing, there were only 2 foreclosures and 5 short sales available in all of Orange County listed in the MLS. That's a 7 total distressed home inventory. That's it. And that's down 4 from the previous reporting period at the beginning of January. Last year, this time, there were a total of 3 distressed homes on the market. So just like it is today. So distressed homes hasn't changed a whole lot. Forbearance has not led to foreclosures, at least in our area, like a lot of people had thought, or a lot of people had predicted. And why, you may ask? Well, people had equity because the economy went nuts and the housing market went nuts from 2020, 21, 2022. People that were in forbearance never went negative equity, so they could easily refinance out if they weren't able to make those balloon payments and lump sum payments to get themselves caught up. We've seen a very, very small portion of them actually come to foreclosure. And in fact, the banks have been really, really willing to work with those people, unlike back in 2006 and 2007 when the housing economy was collapsing, when the banks didn't want anything to do with people because they had no, what was that word? Equity. Today they have equity. Banks will work with you to keep with you in your house if you have equity. If you don't have equity, that's a whole nother ballgame. So to sum this all up, there were 1,393 closed residential units in December, which is 44% less than we had in December 2021. Remember, December 2021, we never took a break in fourth quarter of 2021. The market was just going so crazy. Okay, we definitely took a break in 2022. So we had 44% less homes closed December 2022 over 2021. And a 2% decrease from November. That's actually not that big of a deal. The 2% from November to December, it's usually a little bit higher than that from November to December, even in a hotter market. So it just showed you that it slowed down and it just kind of stayed flat for like a couple months there. The sales to list price ratio was 98.4% for all of Orange County. Now, if you recall, I believe when we were really humming along there, we were more like 99.8%. So people have had to take some price reductions. That isn't necessarily because there was something wrong with the home or things found wrong with the home during the escrow period and inspection period. It has more to do with, we saw a lot of issues of people still pricing their homes, not reading the data or understanding the data, or just refusing to understand the data, that you had to start changing your pricing structures and still pricing their homes at or above current market value, thinking that the market was going to continue to shoot up even when all the indications and data showed otherwise. And I think that's what's really caused the fact that you've now got a 98.4% close rate, list to close ratio versus 99.8% where we were for quite a while. I hope this information helps. I hope that you get a lot out of it. Again, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, on any specific areas in Orange County, even outside of Orange County, I can help you throughout all of California if you'd like to have a breakdown of home value in your neighborhood, home value of your own home, your city, whatever. I'm happy to give these breakdowns for you. Again, all this information that I've always shared comes straight from Reports on Housing. That's what I subscribe to, and I interpret it and send it out to my followers and my subscribers. And it's, in my opinion, it's fantastic information to have because it's pretty relevant. It's not dated, severely dated information. It's very relevant, very timely. So hopefully you'll tune back in. I do updates about once a week on housing information and housing data. I do other updates from time to time throughout the month on other things regarding real estate. Oh, and let me know, what do you think of my avatar? I think that's like the skinniest I've ever looked, to be honest with you, but it's the best representation I could create. I'm just kind of messing around here. Sometimes people want to look at my face, sometimes they don't. But anyway, again, thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you again soon.